Hello and welcome to The Difference here on Election Day in this great country that we're all a part of. Welcome everyone today. Our show is powered by The Difference, a digital video branding and broadcast media company that helps small business owners just like me create and produce their own unique radio, live stream, and podcast. Our show is brought to you by Delicate Moving. We are your local and long distance moving solution. We have been in business for over 20 years, serving our customers throughout the Dallas-Fort Worth Metroplex and beyond. If you're looking for great quality moving services with a 5-star experience, contact Delicate Moving at 214-972-0502. And I'd like to go ahead and start off our show by bringing on Darren and April Mabrey, our weekly co-host. Darren, April.
Well, I'm not Darren or April, but they dropped off somehow. We're waiting for them to reconnect.
Now I'm bringing you Lyndon Wilson, our great producer and founder of The Difference.
What's up, everybody? Good to see you, James. I did. Well, I voted 3 weeks ago, man.
I voted about 2 weeks ago.
Yep. I did my duty, and I just sat back and pray.
Right. Well, it's going to work out either way, I guess.
It will. I had that discussion with someone this morning. They posted on Facebook that, if Trump wins, nothing changes. If Biden wins, nothing changes. And in the short term, I think it appears that way. But when you've lived a few decades, like I have, you can see over time those changes start to impact our country. And, it may not be a 4-year presidential run that has a big impact, but I mean, just like what Donald Trump has already done with putting 3 justices on the court, that's going to make an impact for decades. Unless someone comes along, which it's going to make an impact for decades. And here's why. If the Democrats decided they wanted to pack the court, that's a change in our country right there that nobody anticipated 10 years ago.
Right.
Would you agree with that?
Absolutely.
So over time, if you look back 50 years ago or 40 years ago, and you compare where we are today with where we were then, there's been some drastic changes that have occurred over the years.
Mm-hmm.
So, it does matter who we have in there, and I think the big thing though is just we have to continue to be neighbors and friends, and I think that we got to get the chatter out of our head that we're all against each other, because we're not all against each other. We all want to make a good living. We all want to be free. We all want to not be bothered, and if we quit listening to the media telling us what we need to think and how we need to feel, we'd probably be better off. So that's my soapbox for today.
Well, I posted something on our neighborhood Facebook page here where I live, and we have a pretty robust dialogue on our Facebook, our neighborhood Facebook page, and it's stayed above board by most. But I just wanted to point out that one, there's people that aren't going to vote like I do that are going to be in heaven one day with me.
Yep.
My Christian testimony, my witness is very important. And so, we need to be respectful. We need to appreciate and understand that not everyone votes the same way. And I don't think I'm wrong in the way I vote, but for me to say that I couldn't be or that I get it all right would be arrogant. And so I can't hold it against someone either long term if they don't vote the same way I do, from the standpoint of what we're trying to accomplish on this earth. And God puts kings in place. And so he's going to work all this out. He'll use Trump for his purposes, or he'll use Biden for his purposes. Our vote still matters. We're still accountable for how we vote. We can't just go, oh, well, God's going to work it all out so I can vote however I want to and not have any accountability or take into consideration how I should vote based on my values. But I think when it's all said and done, God will work it out either way. And it's all part of this process while we're on earth for a small time compared to eternity.
That's a great way to put it. I think one of the things where we have failed is we have gotten to the mindset now, culturally, that if you don't believe the same way I do, you're anti-me, or I'm anti-you. And that puts us in the mindset of being enemies. And what do people have to do with their enemies? They have to try to destroy them, right?
Yeah.
I mean, that's, and I think we've got to get away from that. Just having opposing views, even maybe wanting to see the country going in a different direction, doesn't make us enemies. And as long as we can, I think that, and I said that today, I'm not anti anything until they become anti me. And then if I'm required to protect myself and my interest and my way of life, that's what I have to do that. But I think that the media has played a big role in making us feel and believe that our neighbors are out to destroy us. And that's, I don't think we feel that way. I think we're starting to believe that, or we're influenced that way. Here they are, the slackers.
Yeah, exactly. It's like Darren and April. When they don't make the first 5 or 6 minutes of your show, you just actually think they're against you. They don't like you. They don't really care about the show. Right? Same way when people don't vote the way we vote, they just don't care.
Holy smoke!
Right.
Yeah,
internet failed.
Yeah, I
the
think
internet doesn't care about the show. That's the real problem.
Like literally right at 1:00. Come on, there's something to that.
It failed how?
It just stopped, like right at 1:00 and 1 second. It was weird.
And I have problems over here with my internet where I'm at, so it's an ongoing frustration. No,
I had a couple of weeks ago. I had my camera died right in the middle of a show. And fortunately, I was able to switch immediately to my computer camera. So, other than a little glitch, no one really caught on.
All right. So, what were y'all talking about?
Politics.
We're just talking about the way our country. Well, I think our country gets divided over. We allow the media, we allow news, whatever, to convince us that if somebody doesn't vote just the way we vote, or someone's convinced that I don't vote the way they vote, that I'm racist, or I don't care about poor people, or I don't care about whatever the cause is. And I think that the powers that be, I'm not saying it's necessarily a conspiracy, but I really believe that there's been a good job of separating our country. And I think both political parties have their fair share in that, because, if you vote Democrat, then you're not a Christian, or if you vote Republican, you don't care about the poor people. I mean, we can just go back and forth with what all the labels are, and it's really got us in a tough spot as a country. I think it's divided us, and now I saw a joke about, somebody said, put up on Facebook. I said, bring up politics at the Thanksgiving dinner, and you'll save yourself a lot of money for Christmas.
I'm all over that.
Yeah.
So
well, and I know that's not why we came here today, but I thought, everybody talks about divisiveness is bad. It's not always bad. There are things that you need to divide over, and unity at the cost of principle is not unity. And so, yeah, I mean, I'm not going to be ashamed to say that I will absolutely, willingly divide over a Marxist. Absolutely. I have no problem with that. And whatever it takes, because as they say, you only get a vote for socialism once. and then the next time you have the discussion, you have to have a gun. And So, I mean, yes, divisiveness just to be divisive and contrary is probably not a good thing, but there are subjects and there are things that are worth dividing over.
Well, you got to have your core values and your principles, and if you don't stick by those, then there's not much to you. I mean, I think we all have that.
Oh, there's a line. Everyone has a line.
Right. You're right. Everybody has a line. So
and it just depends on the subject and how far you push something. So
Yeah,
anyway, that's my humble but accurate opinion. Lyndon, so.
Let's talk about
that's that depersonality. And speaking of depersonality, I'm going to step out and let y'all do your show, because if not, we could be here a couple of hours talking about politics, because I do have my opinions, but nobody cares. So you guys have a great show. And Darren and April, glad you can make it. By the way, I want to show you something before I go.
Okay.
Just to make sure on screen you guys see that. I want to make sure everybody's happy.
I just saw it.
Oh, is that his name going across?
Yeah.
Oh, it's in capital.
And I'm way at the end where I belong.
I like the cap, Lyndon, but I feel like we could bump up the font size a little bit.
Like a big bulb.
Okay, I will. Here, let me see something.
It's more like fire flames or,
Come on.
Hold on. Let me see if I can make it better.
I need your affirmation.
It's not scrolling, but I mean, you can see it.
Well, I like that better, because that way I don't have to share any ticker tape time.
Nope.
I like that. It's just stationary.
Okay. All right.
Really, the only thing I would do with that, other than make it bigger, is right after the Y in my last name, there's a comma. I would just, from the comma over, just delete all that. But that would be the only tweak I'd have. Just a small tweak.
All right. I will pass that along to our
to the staff.
To the staff.
While you're still on, I thought this might have been the best thing. I think I sent this to you, Darren. The best thing I've seen about 2020, the year 2020, is this: an extra hour in 2020 is like getting a free appetizer from a restaurant that gave you food poisoning.
Yeah, that's right.
That's true. That's true. All right. Y'all have a great show. Right. I'm getting out of here.
All right. That killed a couple minutes trying to get the internet up. So anyway, time well spent, I'm sure.
Yeah. I like the way y'all matched today. Y'all are both wearing black. At least that's what it looks like.
I'm rolling with the Darren look. Yeah. Anyone who knows Darren knows that he always wears black. Every once in a while, you'll see him in like a really dark blue t-shirt. Outside of that,
some people have suggested that I might be Batman.
Lego Batman.
And I think I started that rumor.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness.
I think I am Batman, actually.
Yeah.
So how are we doing today, guys?
We're doing okay.
Did y'all early vote, or are y'all voting today?
No, I voted. Yeah, I voted a couple weeks ago.
We went and voted a couple of weeks ago as well. It was on a Friday. It was about 25-minute process.
Yeah.
Yeah. You know what's interesting? I didn't know I had on a mask that one of my friends from class made me, and it had some political name on the front of it with a bunch of sparkles.
It didn't say Trump 2020, did it?
It might have. And I was wearing it, and I didn't know that in the state of Texas, you cannot go in.
The whole U.S.
No, that's not true. There are states that you can, but Texas and Virginia, and there's a couple other ones, but
really,
yes, there are states that you can do that.
You can walk into.
Well, let me tell them what it is I'm talking about.
Who's they?
The two people who are listening. Would you just shut up? Okay, so I go in and I have this mask on, and I wear it everywhere. It's got coffee stains and a bunch of stuff on it, right? So I wear it all the time. And I walked in, and like the old grandmas that are there, they're like, "Oh, hi, register your name." They were fine, but then this other lady comes out of the back, and she's like, "I'm sorry, but you have to turn your face mask around." And I was like, "What?" And she goes, "Yeah, you can't wear that in here." And I was thinking to myself, "I'm gonna get you fired." I totally went Karen, and I was like, "I'm gonna get you fired. Like, this is not, American. I should be able to do whatever I want." And then I went and I turned it around and voted, and then walked out, and I was Googling out on my phone to try to figure out like who I should talk to. And I was like, well, I better check. I was like, is that a thing? And then
you're going to get a volunteer fired.
And then I checked, and it is true. You can't wear any t-shirt, face mask, hat, anything in the state of Texas to vote. And so I saw
inside, like when you
go inside when you go to vote. Right. Yeah. You can't wear anything. And so I didn't know that. Did you know
So what
that,
did you
James?
do? Were you drug out of the facility kicking and screaming by
No.
authorities?
No, I did what I was told, but
Did
I
you
didn't
throw a
like
brick
it.
through a window?
No.
You should
I
have.
did what I was told, but then I was like, is that a thing? And so I didn't know. Maybe you
I
did.
did know that because I told my dear wife not to wear her political hat that she's been wearing lately. Said you can't wear that inside. Can't wear that to the polling place. So
Yeah, I didn't know that.
I don't know where I learned that or when I learned that, but I've known that for a while.
I thought what was really helpful was all the signs right outside. That was helpful.
Right.
That was
Yeah,
helpful.
I think that's one of those deals where if you don't have a sign, it's noticeable and there's a problem, but the sign being there is not going to really change anybody's mind or go, oh, you know what? Everybody in this area is voting for
Wait a second.
XYZ. So
Is Donald Trump running? He has a sign. Wow, I didn't know that. Okay, I have to look for his name. I'll keep my eye out for that.
And I get tickled at all the people that are still undecided as of like this past weekend. Like, does that really exist?
These are people who just need attention. They want you to want them. That's what that's about.
Or you could write in Kanye West. That's a whole thing. If you want to like have a couple of glasses of wine and just really veg out, go listen to his interview with Joe Rogan. It is literally 3 hours.
Not that this show condones the consumption of alcohol in any way, shape, or form. We cannot.
No, I'm just saying if you want to like completely.
No, we just know who our audience is, Darren. That's
vegetable.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. So let's talk about. Speaking of Conway, let's talk about Conway.
Do you think Conway
Twitty?
Do you think he likes Kanye? Likes to talk about him? Do you think he likes to talk about himself?
A narc for sure.
Remember when Darren brought that up in class once? The first time he brought up Kanye's first name about talking about what he had experienced when he was like 5 or 6 years old, and how it impacted him. And he referred to Kanye as Conway.
Conway Twitty.
Yeah,
that's why I probably
thank goodness I had some hip white guy from Tyler, Texas, wherever, Lubbock,
Longview,
whatever.
Yeah, because we're from East Texas to West Texas, but that's okay. Go ahead.
Okay, Longview, yeah, a middle-aged white dude from Longview who was really hip to what all the kids listened to.
Yeah,
was there to correct me. It was so helpful.
Boy. Just trample all over me, right? Good.
It was there was like Conway Twitty, right? Wasn't that?
Yeah, but it's Kanye.
Well, hey guys, real quick before we get going, let me share with everyone a name that that no one who listens to our show should get confused with, and that's Jeff Jacobs. If we can get Lyndon there to queue up, there we go. Realty Town, Jeff Jacobs. Jeff Jacobs and his team at Keller Williams Frisco have over 125 years total team experience in real estate. The realty team at Keller Williams Frisco has the experience you need for success results in the world of real estate, specializing in residential real estate, helping buyers and sellers with their home needs. Jeff and his team at Realty Town also help their clients in the commercial arena. And if you need any help at investment properties, basically anything, let's just put it this way, anything that has to do with real estate, Jeff and his team can take care of you. Give them a call at 972-978-6539. Again, that's 972-978-6539. And I can say that I've personally used Jeff on some real estate transactions over the last 15 years, and their team has been first class from start to finish, and they definitely get the results that you're looking for. All right, guys. So last week we dove into the topic of narcissism, and we basically started off discussing NPD versus narcissistic tendencies, because I think, as you said, April, or pointed out, NPD is something that is diagnosed clinically, and but we as people walking around and interacting with each other can definitely identify narcissistic tendencies without understanding if that person is a narcissist with NPD. Would that be accurate?
It is. And I think if you talk to clinical psychologists, they'll tell you that there's a lot more people who are probably NPD, but their life works for them. So they're not going to go in and sit down and be diagnosed because their life is working for them. They've surrounded themselves by people who enable their bad behavior and reward the behavior. So unless someone is depressed high anxiety, suicidal because they've lost everything, then they're not going to probably go in, they feel like they're hitting on all cylinders. They're probably doing really well at work. They've surrounded themselves. A lot of times they're entrepreneurial. They have their own, they lead their own stuff. They're surrounded by people who say yes to them all the time. Their wife or husband and children don't get in their way. They're the king or queen of their own castle. So they're not going to go in and sit down. So that's what they're saying. Like, I think it's like 6% or something are actually have a diagnosis, but it's probably a lot higher, somewhere between 25 and 27%.
Well, these are some of the most
It goes
charming
highly
people.
undiagnosed.
Yeah, but these are some of the most charming and delightful people you can be around for a short period of time. So there's a lot of chances that their life could work for them, right?
Well, right. And somewhere along the line, we've been sold a bill of goods that charming people and sparkly people and successful people are better than everybody else, and that we should be drawn to them. Charismatic, charming people, that somewhere in the back of our mind, we've been told that that's what we should be looking for. And what I'm learning over time is that those are the people that's
You should be most suspicious of.
Yeah, you better wait that out and get to an opportunity where you can see them expose their real self.
Well, what if you're charming and sparkly, but you're healthy? I mean,
yeah, I'm just saying it doesn't. All I'm saying is that not everything that glitters is gold.
As a matter of fact, most of it's not.
Yeah, sometimes it is.
Yeah, I think we talked about last week too, is that selfishness or self-centeredness, those are big components or attributes of people that are narcissistic, but or that have narcissistic tendencies. And something we discussed in class this past weekend, and for those of you who may be our first time joining us, Darren and April and I, our connection is through a class. We call it a life group at our church. And so we've been doing life together for the last, year and a half as Darren teaches our class. And so a lot of the things that we discuss on this podcast are conversations or topics that we've already had in our class and touched on. And so you'll hear us often reference something that we talked about in class, or someone from our class as an example of something. But
I would add that it's focused on marriage.
Correct.
Mm-hmm.
So we talk about a lot of these conversations in our class. But anyway, yeah. So we talked about
this weekend. We talked about enablers, and so the word selfishness, self-centeredness. So we think of people that are what I would say are overtly selfish, right? Where it's all about them.
Mm-hmm.
And it's always about them getting what they want, and it's always about how they're offended or how you're not taking care of them or looking after them. And that's what I would refer to as being overtly selfish. But I think on the flip side of that, those of us, and I've been over many years of my life, have battled with being an enabler myself in certain things, certain situations that I've been in. There's a selfishness to that too,
Mm-hmm.
that we don't think of when we think of selfish people, right? Because we may enable people or be in situations of enablement because that's more comfortable for us. And so selfishly we act that way. And so I think that is there's that component in narcissism too. I think there are some people who aren't overtly selfish that still battle some narcissistic tendencies, because it's more covert and they are still trying to manipulate or work things into a favorable situation for their own emotions or their own the dynamic that they're dealing with.
Yeah, I mean, I think we have to be careful about calling everything narcissism, right? Like, I mean, I think that I believe we're born sinful, and that over time we're sanctified, and we struggle for a shorter amount of period of time when God's trying to say, hey, like, this is not something that you need to be participating in. Let's change, And so to me, that's just, sometimes it's just your natural flesh standing up and saying, I don't want to do that, or I want that. And so I think narcissism, especially right now, it's real easy to label anything that feels selfish as narcissism, right? Especially if you're hard on yourself. So those I's and those S's who are naturally hard on themselves, it's easy for us to kind of go, oh, I'm probably a narcissist, and you can kind of go down that road. I think what we're really talking about when we talk about narcissistic tendencies or traits or even NPD is something that's what I would consider toxic. Right. And something that is consistent in all relationships. So if everybody, if everywhere you go, it smells like BO, it's possible that it's you. It's that kind of thing. Because we can get really picky and start going, oh, well, I did this or I didn't do that, and I'm probably a narcissist. Like, don't go down that road. What we're talking about is there someone in your life, and I would say, or is it you, but you're probably not going to be able to self-diagnose if you really are narcissistic. But is there someone in your life who treats you this way consistently over time? Right. And one of the big things that I was going to talk about, and you guys can kind of jump in here too, is one of the main things that a narcissist will do, a toxic narcissist will do, is they will gaslight you. And so for those of you who don't know what gaslight is, it was a movie back in the, I think, 50s or something called Gaslight. And it was basically, the whole movie was about this guy really kind of manipulating this woman and getting her to question reality. That was the whole movie. And so that's why they use that term gaslighting. And so gaslighting is something where the person is consistently sowing seeds of doubt in your mind, right? Is it really that way? Are you sure that's something you could do? Do you really want to go for that job? Is it something that I don't know. Really? No, that's not what I said. No, that's not what you thought. That's not how you should feel. You misunderstood me. I mean, I can name a whole bunch of stuff. Right?
It's just altering your perceptions and reality.
The goal is to undermine the confidence of that person's own ability to distinguish reality, period. And it doesn't happen in kind of one foul swoop, right? It happens over time, slowly and consistently. And so we kind of all do that naturally, but really becoming more and more aware of whether you're doing it to other people or if someone in your life is consistently doing it to you.
Oh, Lyndon put it up on Wikipedia because everything on Wikipedia is true.
Yes. Yeah. So, gaslighting is one of those things where, they're trying to take your reality and twist it. And then that makes you go, well, maybe I was wrong. Maybe I didn't see that. Maybe that isn't how I should feel. Right. So when you start talking about DISC and you start looking into that kind of
self-doubter,
SCCS, even SIIS, that whole area, they're kind of built to be with the team. And when the team leader says that's not what it is, then you go, oh, well, I thought that's what it was. No, that's not what it is. See, team leader says it's black. Oh, because I thought it was white. Oh, and by the way, the only person that you get to listen to is team leader because we have completely isolated you away from any of the rest of the team. So that's it. Like, I tell you how it goes. And
this is like David Koresh. I mean, this is just like a cult.
To its extreme.
Yeah, to its extreme. It's a cult where I'm now you're going to look to one person for your every decision in your life, everything you have completely lost the ability to perceive and judge on your own.
But let's step back. If you go into an unhealthy S, they're like, yes, I love that. I don't want to have the stress and the tension.
I don't have to let anyone down. I don't have to be wrong.
Of making a decision that I'm not really sure about. And so what happens is that they they step into these really unhealthy relationships with a more driven, unhealthy driven person who tells them, and they're both unhealthy. That S is unhealthy, and that DI is unhealthy, and it's just an absolute perfect match to do life horribly. And it fits somehow. It's this weird, ugly, mangled shoe that fits everybody's foot.
Mm.
And I think when you start looking at DISC and you start talking about narcissism, which is what Lyndon brought up a couple weeks ago, like who do you see, is often the most narcissistic? I think what you see is you see D's and C's and C's and D's, and maybe even up into that I being the overts. And then you see the S and the C and the C and the S being coverts. And so really what you're getting, and oftentimes you get two narcissists married to each other. They're just
opposite.
Yeah, and they kind of magnetize to each other.
I can think of
Oh man, there's so many.
I can think of a lot of couples in my mind right now.
Yeah, there's so many, and it's weird because they're just coming out of the woodwork like
So
all of a sudden.
if you could nail down this conversation, if you could hang into this conversation when it comes to marriages, a male overt married to a female covert, you would probably hit about 80% of the marriage issues. You could actually hang into that conversation and maybe be helpful in 80% of the marriages.
There's no doubt.
You buy that?
There's no doubt. I do. I buy it. And man, why aren't we doing something about this? I feel like we should do something. I don't know what to do though.
So I don't want to.
I see the pattern.
Well, do you think a lot of that has to do with also maybe how we're conditioned in the United States, just here in our culture, culturally conditioned as women sometimes fit into a certain role in their minds. Maybe they're attracted to a certain thing so do you think gender has anything to do with it, or do you think it's purely disc driven or some other type of style driven?
I think it's a mixture of things.
Yeah.
I think that, let's just make the perfect recipe. You get an S girl raised by an S mom, married to a narcissistic D. 100% of the time, she's going to find herself the same exact dude.
Yeah.
Because she's seen her mom mirror that for her. And that seems right. And all she ever wanted was dad's approval, which she never got.
Yeah.
Right. Like, let's just make the perfect concoction. And then you go out and that feels right to you.
Right.
And then all you do is spend your life trying to please him. And then round and round we go. And then you have a daughter and she watches you and and the Bible talks about sins of the father, right? You just keep daisy chaining that together. And what I love is that I've met some women, and I'm talking about like what I just explained, who had a mother and a grandmother and a great grandmother who passed that down. And these women are starting to stand up, and you go, oh, well, S's are so kind. They are, but they're very strong, resilient women. And these women are standing up.
Once they flip,
haven't
it's
been
over.
married 16 years, 18 years, 25 years,
30,
31 years. And they're standing up and going, you know what? I'm going to create a new legacy. I'm going to break this chain of this kind of sins of the father thing. And I'm going to suffer probably the rest of my life. But I'll tell you what's not going to happen. What's not going to happen is I'm not going to serve this up.
The guy's hosed
for
at
my
that point.
kid, my daughter, or my son to look at it and go, this is what a marriage should look like. No way. And if I have to suffer and I have to go for the rest of my life, never knowing what it's like to really be loved by someone, I'll do that. Because let me tell you something, what drives an S is their family. And those girls, but you better not, if you're married to us, you better not let them hear that. Because once they know that their kids can be saved, and that if they suffer for their children, that their kids can be saved, you're done, bro. Like, it's over. It is over. I mean, that resonates with you, James. I know it does. Right?
Yeah.
Because you're like, oh, my kids are on the line. Yeah, that's not happening.
Mm-hmm.
And it comes from somewhere really, really deep in them, that they will absolutely, literally lay their life down. And I mean, we can think of I just named them all, pretty much 4 or 5, 6 maybe, of these women who were like, you know what? I have no money. I have nowhere to live. I don't know what I'm going to do with my life. I'll probably have to eat a squirrel under the bridge or something, but that's okay because my kids, I'm going to stop this insanity right now. Like once I've seen the pattern, I can't unsee it. And the love of their children drives them, and it's done.
Well, one particular lady that we're talking about, she asked me a question. She said, well, Darren, how many of these men, once they kind of get faced with this and confronted with this, do you see kind of turn around? And the answer is next to none. Okay. But I told her, I said, but here's the thing. The way you find out if there's any chance or any hope is you have to let these guys face the consequences of their behavior in absolute, just full on.
Right.
Because and what, in order to be truly successful, is these guys they even though they come off, it's all about them. They can't do life by themselves, and so they're used to this exchange of me dumping, of the guy dumping all of his stuff on the woman, and all that emotional disappointment and hurt and garbage that he collects throughout the day. And when the wife backs away, what he typically does is now he's going to try to find someone else. And you got to remember, the only people that are going to hang around people like this, or the only ones they're going to let hang around them, are people who they can manage and control. And so they'll just start trying to push this off on other people. But my point is if you get rid of all of the enablers, and that narcissist, that person has to stand by themselves and they have to face the consequences of their behavior, that's when you find out, are they really going to wake up and own their own behavior and start working through the consequences? Or are they just going to say, yeah, whatever, and walk away?
Find somebody else who will carry
and
it.
I'm going to just shift. I'm going to exit, push you off the stage. We'll get in the understudy and we'll just move on down the road. And you find out, that's what you find out quick. But if you're going to continually meet the impossible need list of the narcissist and keep enabling them, then you may never find out.
Yeah, I think it's again, we talked about it last week with everything being so focused on through television, through many media. We're just inundated with focusing on individuals and uniqueness, and it is becoming probably the number one issue that I think a lot of marriages are dealing with right now, especially as you go along and you've been married for a while, like you said, with people finally just waking up and smelling the coffee. And it's tough because, you said, the person asked you, Darren, well, do these men, do they change course when confronted? And you said, well, not many of them. And I think the sad part about that is it's probably just too late for them. Like, they've gone so long of getting things their own way that if they're confronted with it, they're just going to try to figure out another way of still getting what they want and still manipulating their life to their favor, rather than saying, you know what, I'm 25 and I'm having some good self-realization here and I need to change because the next 30 years of my life are going to be miserable.
Right. Well,
but when you start hitting somebody with that in their late 40s, mid 50s, that's all they know.
It is. But let's remember what is a narcissist protecting? All of those behaviors. So what we talked about last week, lack of empathy, sense of entitlement, superficiality, arrogance, validation seeking, envying others, needing special treatment, have to being around important people, the validation seeking. What are they? Those are all behaviors. Okay. And remember, in class, we talked about that behavior is driven by the will and will is driven by the desire. So what is the desire of the heart? The desire of the heart is to protect the ego. That's what they're protecting. It's this fine, thin shell of an ego that's inside because they don't understand who they are in Christ.
They have an identity crisis. It is exactly what I was saying.
It's the core of the problem. Okay. And especially as believers, we believe that is that they don't feel validated and accepted by their Heavenly Father. That's the end result. And I'll fight anybody over that. that's how I view it. And so when you don't have a good understanding of that, you're in trouble anyway. But if you've been brought up in a situation, especially if you've been brought up with one of your parents as a narcissist, your ego is paper thin. So any pressure against that is really scary, because it feels like, well, it's like an infection. You don't want anybody to touch it. So what you're doing is you're consistently building these big concrete walls around it so that no one can get to it. And that's why they behave that way.
Well, okay. So on that thing, let's think about this. The real skill that's missing with everything that you guys are talking about right now. Well, we are talking.
Mhm.
I'm talking.
You're
to.
talking to.
I'm talking to.
You notice that, April, if he's not talking 90% of the time, that he's not talking. But go ahead, Darren.
No, I don't understand. I don't understand. But what the real issue is here is that the skill that's missing is it is really important that we're taught at a young age of what do you, little boy or girl, need in life, and where do you go to get that need?
That's right.
Okay, because there are a list of needs, and James, we haven't even gotten into this in class because of COVID, and I don't think it's fake.
It's not.
It's a lot
He had
fake.
it. James had COVID. Is
Well,
it fake, James?
No, it's not fake. I've got a buddy of mine who's got it right now. His whole family got wiped out with it. They were supposed to come visit us last weekend, and on Thursday they called and said, we're not coming. We've all got COVID. So it's
Right.
not fake. But I
It's
get
not fake, but it's not cancer. It's not for
Okay. Sorry. Moving on.
okay. But
I
anyway,
digress.
but my point is this: is what are the needs? Most people don't know what their needs are. They don't even know what the category of needs are. Okay, and so the skill set that's missing is number one, what do you need in life as a human? And then the quick follow-up question to that is, and where do you go to get that? Because what ends up happening is the skill set that gets screwed people up is nothing will jack your life up faster than for you to try to get horizontally what you can only get vertically. Okay, so if this was in the middle of the sermon, I would say, let me say that again. You are in nothing but trouble if you try to get horizontally what by design you can only get vertically. So when I'm out trying to find acceptance,
Invalidation,
validation, and identity,
affirmation,
and all of those things, when that's why you see people say, well, never make your identity into something that could be taken away from you. So let's just say as a random thought that my identity was that I'm a baseball player. Okay, what happens when I either don't make it to that highest level, whatever that is, or what happens when I'm sorry, I'm laughing because our camera is slowly
I'll fix it.
it's slowly just dropping down. But what happens when
you lose your fastball or you get injured?
You lose your fastball, you get injured. What happens when
you can't hit a putt like David Duval? Remember when he got the yips?
Oh yeah.
Now I'm not saying his identity was wrapped up in golf, but
Ian Baker Finch got to the he would hit a 75-yard. This is a guy that won some golf tournaments in Europe. He would hit a 75-yard duck hook off the tee, and he got with a sports psychologist, and he got to the point where on the driving range you could hit a driver straight. He'd get on the first tee and he'd do a 50-yard snap duck hook, and then he couldn't play anymore. Now he found, golf was still his identity, and he's obviously had a great career as a broadcaster. But my point is, what happens when that identity is now removed? Now what are you going to do? So you have sought out horizontally. Once again, think about what some of those needs lists are that are inappropriately thrown on your spouse. Your spouse is there to meet needs. It's not good that you're alone. I'm going to make a helper for you. We're going to make a partner. But that partner was not a replacement for the vertical relationship. And that's where people get really, really jacked up. And they haven't been taught from a child, hey, wait a minute, what are we trying to meet here?
That's the key right there, is that somebody told that little boy that if he hits a home run or he pitches a no-hitter, that we're going to take your big trophies and we're going to put them up on the wall. And daddy or mommy, whoever, is going to be super proud of you and brag to all of his friends, at church about it.
So
you go, okay, well, yeah, I am. But is that what it's all about? Right? Because the narcissistic father or mother lives vicariously through
they've lost it. So now now Junior's going to take over.
Yeah.
And now I'm going to live through him. He's going to do what I couldn't do, or at least I'm going to, follow my path. That's why you see a lot of,
and we're in the making of another,
a lot of kids, they're in the same sport as dad. Right.
Oh,
and
yeah.
it's like, gee, that's weird.
Let me interrupt here and pay a couple of bills. You guys have brought up the word need. You've also brought up the word protect. And that just leads me into talking about real property management focus. They can service your need for real estate management, property management, and they can protect your asset by managing that. You don't want to deal with the renters. You don't want to deal with collecting the payment. You don't want to deal with the repairs that come with that. A lot of people don't get into the rental market because they don't want to deal with all those things. Well, if you're looking at investing in a property, but you don't want to deal with all the headaches, real property management focus is the answer. Brian Poduska and his team at Real Property Management have decades of experience, and they offer peace of mind to the investor that their assets are being cared for and managed properly. Call Brian and his team over at 469-820-0088 or look them up online at realpmfocus.com. So, yeah, I think it's important too with this whole this needs thing. I think that's first of all, I think that's a whole nother set of a topic that we could spend a lot of weeks on, and I think that's in our near future, right?
Yeah, for sure.
Sure.
And I think that is. I think the hard thing too is because all of these things that we're talking about, whether it's narcissism, our disc type, it's all about self-improvement and having self-awareness and understanding who we are and understanding where we came from, because that impacts who we are today, right? You talked about this before, April, our nurturing and our nature, the impact of nurturing and nature, which is basically how we were born and then how we were raised, or the events that have impacted us in our life. And I think, and I'll be the first to raise my hand and say, I mean, put me at the front of the list when I say, I'm raising two boys, I'm a husband, I'm a business owner. I've got all of these things in my life that are just maxing me out. And it's hard to, I think for so many people, it's hard for us to do the work. I mean, I think everyone has work to do, right? I think we all end up middle-aged with work to do because we've just been putting it off for so long. And I just got to get through today. I mean, I got to pay some bills. I've got to meet this client. I've got to get planned for the family vacation. Oh, my son's got football practice. Oh, my daughter's got dance recital. I mean, all of these things. And we just kind of ignore these things in us. And then maybe when we're faced with these deals that, that come up, we're like, we spend our time trying to work around them, not trying to correct them, but just trying to figure out a way around them to where we can get back to the daily grind of life. Cause that's easier than tackling and facing these deals. I mean,
sure it is. You're not going to do it unless something's on fire.
Even then you may not do the work that's necessary. You may not try to make some real changes that could actually, pay the price now so that you can have a more fulfilling life later. You're just like, okay, where's the Band-Aid?
Yeah, kick the can.
Well, you got to do two things. You got to find the right help. Some people say, oh, he's in counseling. I don't care. What do you mean he's in counseling?
They go to the gym and they've gained 20 pounds in the last year.
I don't care. The question is, are you going to good counseling? And right behind that, are you listening?
Yeah. Are you doing the work?
Are you listening to them? I don't mean hearing them.
Well, and a narcissist will say, "Oh, I've been in counseling. I've been going to counseling. See, So okay, so
I'm
come back.
coming to
'cause I'm gonna-
church. I mean, one of the things April's said this last week or whatever. I mean, it's amazing how many people will be narcissistic type of behaviors.
Mhm.
They have
Toxic.
no problem using
the church,
or using a counselor,
Yeah.
using their
the
friends,
pastor.
using their kids,
Yeah. Oh yeah.
using the church, using revitalized class or whatever,
Using the Bible.
the Bible, you name it, is if it will get accomplished what they want to get accomplished, they'll use it
Yeah.
because they're users. So I mean, it really is shocking, and that's why once again, what we say, we talked about last 2 weeks ago, the passage where it talks about, the father went to his son, said, "Hey, I want you to go work in the vineyard." The first one said, "No, I ain't doing it." And then he said, after he thought about it, he said, "Nah, I probably should." Went out there and did it. When did the second son said same thing? The son said, "Oh, absolutely, I'll do it." And then he didn't do it. And the question was, so which one did the father's will? And even the first peoples of the religious leaders that was posed the question, even they got it right. And they said, "Well, I guess ultimately the first one did." He said, "Yeah, you're right. They did." So what does that mean? What it means is that your behavior is more important than your words.
Mhm.
And it doesn't mean that your words aren't important, which is actually a point I did not make in class. So remind me to make that. But it doesn't mean that your words aren't important. But when push comes to shove, what really matters is actually your behavior.
Right.
And a
But
narcissist does not follow. He
no,
does
they
not
don't
dig
have
that.
to. They don't have
The
to
rules don't apply to them.
because the enabler measures the words. Well, he said he's going to do it, and I trust him.
Mm-hmm.
See,
People,
So
hey, look,
we don't have
people are
expectations.
circling dots today
Yeah.
based upon what people are telling them. They're not going to look
What
at
someone said.
what have you really done,
Right.
both good and bad. But I just want you to tell me what I want to hear.
Well, I think there's a comfort and there's a trust, right? There are people who are just naturally trusting folks. And what those narcissists do is they will weaponize your kindness. They will turn it against you because they can't get to you like from themselves. So they'll kill you from the inside out, and they take your kindness and they weaponize it against you. And that's the really kind of sick part of it to me. It's like, man, this is your wife, this is your husband, these are your children, and you will use their kindness to hurt them.
Well, that's when it
to get what
snaps.
you want.
That's when it snaps. When
Well, there's a question.
the
We've had a couple.
Go ahead.
Go ahead.
Go ahead, Dan. Sorry, man. No,
Well,
go
no,
ahead.
I was going to say when it really snaps, when it really breaks, is when the S-wife sees the husband weaponizing the children to get what they want. And when that stuff gets woke,
Yeah.
because back to what April said,
Hashtag woke. She gone.
what April said about
That was
the
for Kate.
children, and you see it either they're treating it carelessly, the children's lives and our emotions and safety and all that stuff, either carelessly or they're trying to weaponize it, then she gone.
Yeah. I see the chat now.
Yeah, well, I mean, so we've got questions of accountability and about accountability, and I have a strong sense of justice. Like, this was wrong, therefore, a black and white at times, and really a fairness. Like, sometimes I even want to explain myself. You and we've talked about it, you guys, of trying to explain things just to make sure that things aren't misunderstood. And then there's this sense of justice. And when I was married previously in my first marriage, sometimes there is no justice. There is no accountability from the standpoint of just because you have boundaries, they still may choose the wrong path. It's really becomes more about yourself, not being an enabler, protecting your children, and doing what you have to do, what's necessary to do. And they may never be accountable. I mean, what I mean is there may never be justice for that. They may never change. They may never admit
Yeah.
they were wrong.
There you
I mean, and by then it's too late anyway. I mean, people with ex-spouses who've committed all kinds of horrible things against them. I mean, at what point? I mean, yeah, you like to hear, okay, I was wrong, but it doesn't change. You know, it doesn't
Right.
change those years. But
Well,
at
the
some point,
boundary, James, remember the boundary is not there to guarantee change. It's not there to manipulate.
right.
The boundary is there to say, here's your choice. You very likely could choose the wrong thing here. But what I'm choosing right now is to do two things. Number one, tell you you've got either this or that. And number two is if you choose the prior, I am not getting drug into you're crazy. Okay. I'm insulating myself in it. I'm not mowing your lawn. Now, that
Right.
doesn't guarantee that I put up a fence and I mow my lawn. That doesn't guarantee you my neighbor's going to mow his. It just says if he chooses not to, it's not going to impact me. And I'm going to remove myself from that.
Yeah. But there's things that you give up with that, you know.
Well, there's a cost, sure.
Yeah. So that's why it's like you're just exchanging problems. You're not getting rid of any problem.
No, but you're typically exchanging chaos, unrest, tension, anxiety, hurt
For some level
for
of
peace.
Yeah.
Peace.
Yeah.
And you just sit there and go, and it might be rocky and rough at the beginning, but there is a pathway out. I mean,
Yeah.
I mean, at the end of the day, these people have not bought into the concept of if you want to gain your life, you have to lose it.
Right. Well, that goes back to the reason that they're narcissistic anyways, because they don't have their identity in Christ. And I think that as parents, if I just go all the way back to like, what do I do? How do I fix this? What do I do? I think, okay, I need to teach my girls about narcissism. I need to teach my girls that their identity is not in cheer or being a straight A student or being beautiful or being whatever, like pick whatever it is, that would come to mind. And I think that that's how you kind of mitigate the risk because I think of all these girls in my mind who married these men, these toxic, narcissistic men.
Did we lose them?
It looks like we lost them.
We
So
lost them. Okay.
we're about out of time anyway, unfortunately. So
Yeah, well, it's so hate that they got cut off like that, April. I know, kind of think I know where April is going, but we'll be picking this conversation up next week. Hey, to everyone out there listening today, or maybe you're listening to us after the fact on our when we re-air the show. If you haven't voted, I just would encourage you to get out there and vote today. I hope you vote the way I voted. No, I'm just kidding. Actually, I'm not kidding. But no, we live in a great country, and let's not lose sight of what we have here in America. There are some things that are at stake in this election, I believe, some things that are at risk. But I will just be honest and open about my faith. I believe that I serve a God that is sovereign, and that no matter what the outcome is that God's going to have His way. It may require us to endure some hard times. But as I posted the other day, Lyndon, on a Facebook post, the reality is I've read the end of the book and we win. And that doesn't have anything to do with elections.
amen.
That's my faith. This is my show, so I guess I get to share that, right?
Absolutely.
I hope I haven't offended anyone, but honestly, there's a purpose in what we're doing here on this earth, and it's not about this earth. Ultimately, it's about where we're going to spend eternity and the lives that can be changed. And so, if you're out there and you're upset about the election, I would just encourage you not to hurt negatively impact your witness, because people still need to be able to hear what you have to say about the kingdom and about what real challenges and what our purpose is on this earth. Lyndon, appreciate you bringing everybody our show today with the difference. It's a great place for all you business owners out there, or anybody that's just got something they think that is noteworthy that they need to share and get off their chest every week. This is a great platform, and Lyndon's a hell of a guy to work with. And so I can't encourage you enough to jump on and get with Lyndon about the difference for moving conversations. Darren and April, I'm James Kern. We appreciate everyone joining us, and we'll talk to everyone next week when things will definitely be sorted out, hopefully. Take care.
All right. The Difference is a proud supporter of the following nonprofits. Creek and Timber Legacy, providing outdoor learning, hunting, and firearm therapy for veterans, first responders, and children with serious illness. You can find more info at creekandtimberlegacy.org. And Sharp Shoes. Through local schools and shelters, Sharp Shoes helps provide new shoes for countless needy people and their families. You can find more info at sharpshoes.org.